There's this amazing city in China. Its 4,500 years of history hasn't shadowed its yearning for new things. And the beautiful combination of the new and the old can be seen everywhere in this city. It's one of the fastest growing cities in China, as well as one of the most livable cities. Over these past decades of urbanization, how has it emerged as a pearl of Western China? When we talk about urbanization, it's not only about the past development and the present developments that we can witness, but also the future of Chengdu. I'm Nikolaj Pedersen, a social economist from Denmark and co-author of the book The Ethical Economy. I've been researching China's urbanization for many years, but what makes this city so special? And what makes Chengdu, Chengdu? For this city, full of fancy ideas, create is never a strange word. Since the 1950s, as one of the 8 major industrial construction cities in China, Chengdu has focused on the development of the electronics industry and manufacturing. At the beginning of the 21st century, with the rise of the entertainment industry in Chengdu, China's biggest professional software park, the Silicon Valley of Western China, brought nearly 250 well-known enterprises from all over the world, providing more than 30,000 jobs to the city. After that period with Chengdu Software Park, we've seen many incubators pop up in the whole of Chengdu, and today we're visiting an incubator park in Wenchang district in Chengdu. In a quasi-unicorn company in this incubation park, Mr. Wei and his colleagues are taking pictures of the new products, which will be put on the internet for global marketing. The business model of the new age has brought this company more opportunities. The biggest trend is that you go from what you call mass manufacturing to more mass customization, meaning that the whole industry is changing from thinking in millions of units to be able to create bespoke products and craft products, so more high-value products. And the reason why that has happened is because of digital fabrication. This is the future approach to production, because it makes production much more flexible and much more cost efficient when you want to do small batch production, and enabling that anyone who have a good product idea very easily, very flexibly and fairly cheaply make a prototype of their innovative product and being able to test it on the market and then scale globally with that product. And it's great to see that these technologies are becoming the mainstream in Chengdu. What we see now in Chengdu, I feel, is an explosion of entrepreneurship. You can see they do it in numerous ways, where before you were hoping to get a job in a big company or in a state company or in government. Now it's very much that you can create your own business.
我们的这些同事都非常年轻，然后平均年龄大概25岁，很多是刚大学毕业，然后到我们这儿来，然后他们都来自全国各地，有北京、山东、大连等等城市。然后成都呢，现在发展得很快，也很多资源，有很多新兴产业，所以会吸引很多人才过来，对我们的这个创业呢有很大的帮助。
One indicator for measuring the urbanization of a city is population growth. Since 1949, Chengdu's permanent resident population has increased by 15 million, making it the 4th largest city in China that has more than 20 million permanent residents. In a sense, the industrial diversity of a city is an essential factor for attracting talents from other places.
想不想 try it?
Yes, give me one. If you're a football team that only rely on one star player, your attacker, then it's easy for the opponent to stop that team from scoring. Whereas if you have a whole team where everyone has the skills to go forward, then it's a much more resilient team. The goal can come from anywhere. Right? And the same with industrial planning. What is great about products like this is that this is about providing the components and the tools for anyone to learn how to program or build hardware. We generate millions of young people in China to build their own IoT company in the future. Of course, industrial upgrades have satisfied the huge consumer demand of Chengdu people, from food coupons in the 1950s to the current dazzling international luxury brands, avant-garde restaurants and cinemas, as well as the tremendous online shopping turnover. China is fast becoming the largest consumer power around the globe. It is a very successful implementation of a modern mall with high-value cafes and fashion stores integrated with the architecture from that time. The modern construction here really respects the history and the architectural tradition. Probably one of the most unique cases in the world where you've succeeded integrating the soul of a temple with the body in terms of material consumption. China central government decided a few years ago a lot of the growth, the future growth, should come from domestic and especially from consumption. So consumption from a macro level is important as a growth driver. And Chengdu in particularly has always been famous for consumption. I believe that the citizen of Chengdu has the highest average consumption level compared to salary than anyone in China. So they use a larger proportion of their salary for consumption. The unique characteristics of Chengdu has always been its lifestyle. That this sense of this is the land of abundance, right? This is a good life. This is where you can enjoy life. There's a good balance between work and leisure. It has made that people want to enjoy themselves, and part of enjoying themselves is to consume. Interestingly, on a small street next to the bustling Taikuli, you can see a miniature of Chengdu's easy life that reflects both ancient and modern times. We are in the Chengdu alley, which is another successful case of a refurbishment of an old historical alley, which has now become a boutique hotel and a tea house and a private kitchen. Nearly 100 years ago, in 1925, a merchant called Wang Chongde built a number of courtyards on Tangpo Street. They kept the original architecture, also the original doors. So from the outside, you wouldn't know that inside is fully modernized and very trendy, very cool areas. This is a new coffee bar and patisserie, which is in a very old street in the Chang'an area. It is the area that I like the most actually in Chengdu. There are new lifestyle shops like the coffee shop that pops up right next to a traditional convenience store, probably run by a local family, and a traditional local noodle bar where you can enjoy simple but very good noodles. So this mixture between the new lifestyle and the old lifestyle, I find very fascinating and unique. As you can see, we're having some new artworks, combining with, of course, cocktail bars, which is popular now. Oh, look. So urban redevelopment today is about creating integrated neighborhoods and inclusive neighborhoods. So it's not only about keeping traditional historical cultural artifacts, but also keeping what you call intergenerational community. So it's both for the old people, for the middle-aged people, for the young people, and for the children. And this is very much what is happening here in the Tangpager area, keeping a much more harmonious development where everyone can coexist with each other. Yeah, so even within a week or two, I believe these two are new. I haven't seen them, and I actually live in this area. It's new?
It's our phone.
All right. Okay. So you're the designer? Yes. All right. This is the future, what we'll be seeing of the new generation. They want to express their own identity, their own style of things. It's not just a product, right? It's about her idea, her lifestyle. People starting their own small businesses. And it's not only for commercial reasons, it's also to lead the lifestyle they would like and build community around that lifestyle and create their own little pocket in the city where they feel happy. I think the local artist is capturing very much the feeling of Tangpager. You get the feeling of a good life. When I look at his drawings, this is a place that I like to be. It looks very charming.
一到晚上非常热闹这个地方。我这还有些别的东西，我们看看。
看看。Yeah, absolutely. Let's go have a drink. I love to watch, to see your drawings. 你爱红酒吗？
还可以，
还可以，
有点点
，OK。
这个就是
The detail is amazing.
老成都过去80年代的时候的状况，就是基本上都是瓦房，成都瓦房。对，成都瓦房，对。这是老成都的少城，就是人民公园那个地方，人民公园那个地方。对。这个就是新型的成都了，非常漂亮，也是很时尚的一个城市。你看现在有这种小的酒吧，很好的。
So it's wonderful to see the old Chengdu, and it's amazing the development that has happened. Has the soul of the city changed over time? Do you feel?
因为成都的发展，它不光是引进了这些西方东西，包括咖啡也好，或者是叫酒吧也好，但是它把成都的市井，它把成都的文化，根本的东西，它把保留住了。比如说，大家过去喜欢街边上吃饭，现在吃火锅、喝咖啡、聊天，都愿意在街边上，不然他把丢了以后，他就和其他的就没有任何区别了，所以他就很受各个地区人想到成都来定居的一个理由，对，这个是最大的 吸引你。
Dozens of years ago, China was a bicycling country. Back in 1986, 63% of Beijingers bicycle in their everyday life. Only 15 years or more later, that number plummeted to 14%. Now, shared bike schemes is becoming the direct solution to the last mile transportation needs. In Chengdu, you can always find a shared bike wherever you need it. Before the 1950s, there hadn't been any concept about modern urban planning in Chengdu. And Chengdu didn't experience any major urban development until the emergence of a north-south central axis in the city. With a speed up to 100 kilometers per hour, this is China's third automatic operator metro line and the first in the whole of central and western China. When I moved from Beijing to Chengdu 8 years ago, there were only 2 metro lines in Chengdu. So within 8 years, 10 metro lines have been built and is now operating. So Chengdu has a quite comprehensive and sophisticated public transportation system now. It's very convenient and easy to move around the entire city. Located within the Sichuan Basin, the development of the aviation industry is of particular significance for this city, and with hosting more than 300 Fortune Global 500 companies and the consulates of 20 foreign countries, Chengdu has paved its way to become the third city in China with 2 international airports. As far as I can see, the new airport not only facilitates the establishment of the Chengdu-Chongqing economic circle, it also accelerates Chengdu to cooperate with the Belt and Road Initiative cities and with European countries. That of course puts pressure on Chengdu in a different way in terms of quality of hotels and the cultural experiences for foreigners in the city. But it's a great opportunity for Chengdu to become a truly international metropole. The most popular term, you could say, around the world, especially I think Europe, but also in some degree in the US, is what you call human-centric development. So when you plan a city, you look at the individual citizen and plan from that. So you look at, okay, this citizen wants to be able to have leisure, we want to have a job, we want to have a green area, we want to be able to move around. Like, so all of these elements, so you plan around what makes a person happy, right? So you want a happy city. What will the future city look like? What are the future urbanization strategies? In Chengdu, we might be able to find one of the answers. Right now, Chengdu is developing the East New area where the new airport is being built. And in the heart of this new urbanization between the East New area and Chengdu, there is the world's largest urban forest park. It's going to be the lung of this new expansion of the city. So the city will be surrounded and engulfed as an oxygen chamber for the citizens to live a sustainable and healthy and balanced life. Every day, this city is changing drastically. In the next century, what surprises will Chengdu bring us? Let's wait and see.
Stadt. Straße. Jahrhundert. Bild.
This exhibition, named A Journey to the Southwest, a dialogue of Chinese and German images through a century of time and space, features photographs of Southwest China taken a century ago by a German couple. At the beginning of the 20th century, Fritz Weiss, a German diplomat, came to China. During the 13 years from 1904 to 1917, he traveled around southwest China with his wife, recording in words and images what he saw and heard at the time.
Von weitem schon hörte man das Tosen der Stromschnellen, in die das dumpfe Trommeln, das Singen der Tracker, der antreibende Ruf der Bootsleute drang. Vor dem langsam stromaufwärts fahrenden Boot schoben sich die Felswände wie Kulissen von uns auseinander, überboten sich an Großartigkeit und Schönheit, ragten finster zu beiden Seiten des Stromes empor, gaben aber auch den staunenden Augen immer wieder die herrlichsten Augen.
In the spring of 1912, Fritz Weiss and his wife Hedwig Weiss sailed upriver from the Yangtze River, arrived in Chongqing by water, and then went overland to Chengdu. After the thrills of passing the Three Gorges, the couple settled down in the beautiful and fertile city of Chengdu, where they lived for 3 years. After experiencing the city firsthand, the Weisses wrote these words in their manuscript.
Chengdu ist eine wohlhabende, saubere und selbstzufriedene Stadt.
Their granddaughter, Tamara Weiss, later compiled the Weisses' manuscripts and images into a book and published it in China in 2009. These precious photos have attracted the attention and struck a chord with many Chinese and foreign readers.
Ich bin Thorsten Schumann, ich komme aus Deutschland und ich kam vor 1,5 Jahren nach Chengdu. Ich bin ein künstlerischer Fotograf. Weiss und ich sind beide deutsch oder kommen aus Deutschland und leben in Chengdu. Das ist schon eine große Gemeinsamkeit und die Leidenschaft für die Fotografie und für die Menschen in China, das teilen wir natürlich. Natürlich bin ich sehr neugierig über die Lebensverhältnisse damals und natürlich auch das Leben der Familie Weiss und ihre Geschichte. Was war ihre Geschichte? Was hat sie nach China gebracht? Warum sind sie oder haben sie in China gelebt? Was haben sie in China gemacht? Wie haben sie die Menschen wahrgenommen?
With such curiosities and questions, Schumann decided to find the answers in the same way as his German compatriots, Mr. and Mrs. Weiss, by means of video. German photographer Schumann decided to take his book, Old Photographs of Sichuan, German couple Weiss's Journey to Southwest China, as a walking guide to see Chengdu through the lens of the Weisses.
So wie in dem Buch von Hedwig und Fritz Weiss, also ist ja nicht das Buch von Hedwig und Fritz Weiss, sondern mit den Bildern von ihnen. Die Bilder von ihnen zeigen mir sehr viel über das damalige Leben. Und natürlich ist es auch möglich zu vergleichen mit der jetzigen, heutigen Situation in derselben Region. Und ich bin sehr gespannt, was hat sich geändert, was ist gleich geblieben. Und das ist auch eine wichtige Information, die uns die Fotografie wirklich sehr gut vermitteln kann. Also jetzt sind wir genau auf der Straße, wo Hedwig und Fritz Weiss vor 100 Jahren lebten. Und in den historischen Fotoaufnahmen im Vergleich zu jetzt, also es hat sich sehr viel verändert. Die Häuser sind viel höher und das ist auch die Entwicklung der Stadt in den letzten 100 Jahren in Chengdu. Ups. Hier. Das ist die Xizhusche Street und dort haben Hedwig Weiß und Fritz Weiß gemeinsam gelebt. Und das ist hier. Dieses Bild zeigt eine Aufnahme oder ist eine Aufnahme ganz in der Nähe entstanden, wo Hedwig Weiß und Fritz Weiß damals gelebt hatten.
The photos taken by Weiss are an old street near their residence in Chengdu, but 100 years have passed and the streets have changed. He decided to ask a local friend in Chengdu for help.
Thanks for coming.
Hello, you want to find old street? The old street of the picture was taken by Wei Si.
Yes, this one. Maybe you could help me to find this place.
就是说，我们根据这个照片拍摄的年代，我们应该能够找到一个地方，就是同时期的这条街道的这种样子，我们去看一下，看能不能够找到100年前类似这个街道影子和它的这个街道的这个痕迹，我们去瞧一下。
Feng Hui is an urban microhistorian who has taken nearly 800,000 documentary photographs of the city from the 1990s to the present, recording the past life of Chengdu streets in his own way and from his own perspective.
And this place is 宽窄巷子 and this street we called it 锦巷子.
Wide and narrow alley is one of Chengdu's city landmarks, consisting of 3 old streets arranged in a parallel pattern of wide alley, narrow alley, and Jing alley, with a cluster of courtyards in between. This ancient neighborhood has a history of over 300 years and has become a testimony to the history of Chengdu's neighborhood pattern. Can Schumann find clues to these old streets in the photos here?
Hedwig Weiß beschreibt die Straßen von Chengdu so. Chengdus Verkehrsadern sind breit und mit sauberen Sandsteinplatten regelmäßig gepflastert. Chengdu ist eine wohlhabende, saubere und selbstzufriedene Stadt. Wenn ich mich hier so umschaue, dann erkenne ich genau dieses Bild auch auf der Straße von Chengdu. Ich denke, dass Hedwig dies damals bereits so gesehen hatte und ich sehe genau diese großräumig angelegten Straßen, sauber, ordentlich, genau dasselbe Bild in Chengdu mit sehr vielen Geschäften. Fritz Weiß war 22 Jahre alt, das war 1899 und da kam er nach China. Wahrscheinlich so wie ich. Wir beide leben in Chengdu, oder er lebte in Chengdu, ich lebe jetzt in Chengdu. Und ich gehe auch davon aus, dass er nicht ahnte, dass er für einen längeren Zeitraum in China sein wird. Er lebte 18 Jahre lang in China. Ich bin jetzt auch schon 1,5 Jahre in China, ohne dass ich das geplant habe. Und ich denke auch, das ist eine Gemeinsamkeit, bestimmt auch darin begründet, dass wir beide das Leben in China sehr mögen und Menschen und Kultur kennenzulernen.
成都这个100年来，街道的路网是没有变化的。比如说是在这个主要的这个城区里面的，我们这个街道的北偏东30度，这个是没有变的。另外，我们现在这个区域是少城，原来到现在依然保留着这种蜈蚣状的这个城市布局。所以说，虽然这100年城市的建筑发生了很大变化，城市规划也发生了变化，但是成都这么多年古城的路网的结构是没有发生大的变化。
According to Mrs. Hedvig Weiss, she describes the streets of Chengdu in this way. The stores on both sides of the commercial street are beautifully arranged, and the shopkeepers display their luxury goods, furs, silver products, embroideries, etc. in a pleasant, neat and tidy manner.
Ich denke auch, dass wenn ich auf diesen sauber gepflasterten Steinpfaden wandle, wie einst Fritz und Hedwig Weiß oder Hedwig und Fritz Weiß es auch gegangen sind. Ich fühle mich wirklich wie in einer Zeitreise zurückversetzt in die Vergangenheit. Als ob ich wirklich 100 Jahre zurückgegangen wäre und ich kann das richtig spüren.
The impression of the streets of Chengdu from 100 years ago in Quanjai Alley gives more eagerness to Schumann to find the old street in Weiss's photos. Where exactly is that street?
苏曼，你看这张照片哈，拍的这个照片是当时大概是1912年到1914年之间，魏斯夫妇他们在成都待的那段时间。当时他们主要住的这个居住地就在这个西苏市街这一带，我们可以去看一下，去瞧一下，看我们能不能找到这个准确的这个位置。
The street has long since changed over time, and to find the old street, clues can only be found through peeling back the layers. Can they ever hope to find it?
这个地方叫东南里，东南里呢，就是说这个地方实际上现在哈，它这个里面还保留了一种老房子。
Yes,
old building. Yes, maybe similar like this building.
Yes.
Street and brick, the old door and old window.
Yes.
Yes, maybe. 在卫斯的这一组照片里面，其中有一张合影的这么一张照片，背景和这个建筑的建筑风格非常的类似，包括它的这种灰色的砖，它的这种开窗以及仓库的样式非常相似，实际上就可以想象得出来，原来卫斯住的这个成都的这些建筑的风格跟样式。
Based on clues from these photos, Feng Hui took Schumann to find similar houses and buildings in this alley.
活动的重点区域是西主市街，另外他说的都是古城的东北。那么所谓的古城肯定就是护城河以内，所谓的东北大概就是大的范围就是在这一带，和街道的风格是可以确定的。当然他们说的这种宽度呢，可能是在小关庙街这一边呢，就是说这种街道的宽度比较接近。大概哈，我们根据这个照片来判断，我们所要寻找的街道大概就是这一带，你可以比对一下。
Das sieht ja wirklich sehr ähnlich aus wie heute. Also auch die Häuser sind fast genauso, etwas höher, etwas mehr Leute.
You can take this picture and this street together.
Yes,
Use your
yes,
camera.
we can, like it looks almost the same, but little higher buildings, some more people, and I will try to keep this in a photograph.
Yes.
Like I feel like 100 years ago. Ich habe gerade ein Bild aufgenommen, weil ich glaube, dass es sehr ähnlich ist. Diese Stelle sieht fast genauso aus wie auf dem Bild, was von der Familie Weiß vor 100 Jahren aufgenommen wurde. Und ich kann mich richtig in das Gefühl hineinversetzen, wie es vor 100 Jahren war. Es ist sehr ähnlich und hat sich gar nicht so viel geändert. Vielleicht habe ich die Straße gefunden, wie im Buch. Das sieht ziemlich ähnlich aus. Hui hat mir heute außerdem eine sehr alte Straße gezeigt, also ähnlich wie die Straßenzüge von damals in der Zeit, als die Familie Weiß in Chengdu gelebt hat. Und es war ein altes Haus mit genau derselben Umgebung, sodass ich wirklich nachvollziehen kann, wie das Leben in dieser Zeit damals gewesen ist. Also es hat mir sehr viel geholfen, wirklich die Lebensverhältnisse zu verstehen. In der Welt gibt es natürlich viele Flüsse, zum Beispiel in London die Thames, in Paris die Seine und in Chengdu ist es der Fluss Fu und der Nan-Fluss. Beide sind zusammen benannt als der Xinjiang-Fluss, dieser Fluss. Und ich laufe jetzt in Richtung der Lan-Brücke.
The two rivers around Chengdu, the Fu River and the South River, were known as the two rivers in ancient times and were the golden waterways from Chengdu to the coastal areas of China.
Und auf den Fotos von Fritz Weiß und Hedwig Weiß kann man sehr gut erkennen, dass sehr viele Menschen sich in den Basaren und an den Kais versammeln. Und ich kann mir sehr gut den Wohlstand der damaligen Zeit vorstellen. Was früher ein Basar und ein Hafen war, ein Hafen für Handel, hat sich im Laufe der Zeit zu einem Treffpunkt für junge Leute entwickelt. Und das finde ich sehr spannend, denn es ist wie eine Zeitreise durch Raum und Zeit. Und es ist spannend zu sehen, wie sich die Dinge im Laufe der Zeit ändern. Direkt neben der Barstraße auf dieser Seite sind sehr viele in der traditionellen chinesischen Bauweise errichtete Gebäude zu sehen. Und das finde ich toll, dass sich die Moderne und die Tradition miteinander so sehr gut ergänzen. Gern. Wenn die Nachkommen der Familie Weiß einmal die Möglichkeit haben werden, nach Chengdu zu kommen, was ich toll finden würde, das wäre klasse, dann bin ich überzeugt davon, dass sie es genauso lieben würden wie ich, dass sich Moderne und Tradition so ergänzen. Die Tradition wäre in etwa die gleiche, wie damals der Großvater an gleicher Stelle erlebt hat, vor mehr als 100 Jahren.
Four days later, the German photographer Schumann took more than 100 photos in the streets and alleys of Chengdu. As the exploration of Weiss's manuscripts and photos continued, Schumann became more curious about Weiss's story, and then at one point, Schumann had an idea.
Die Nachfahren der Familie Weiß, zum Beispiel Tamara Weiß, gab es eine Namensänderung, bin ich auch sehr gespannt, warum und wo die Nachfahren der Familie Weiß jetzt leben. Es wäre sehr spannend zu erfahren, auch zu erfahren, ob sie mehr wissen über die Familie Weiß damals. Bin natürlich auch sehr gespannt, ob die Nachkommen und Nachfahren der Familie Weiß überhaupt schon mal in China waren. Waren sie schon mal in Chengdu? Ich weiß es nicht. Es wäre natürlich toll zu erfahren, wie sie die Änderungen, die es auch in Chengdu gab und gibt, wie sie diese Änderungen wahrnehmen. Ob sie bestimmte Vergleiche zu historischen Aufnahmen ziehen können. Also es würde mich sehr interessieren.
Schumann decided to ask Chengdu Plus for help, hoping to find the descendants of Mr. and Mrs. Weiss and tell them that the photos of their ancestors from 100 years ago are still being circulated in Chengdu, China. But the world is so big. Where in the world would the Weiss's descendants live now? Chengdu Plus quickly launched a global search through its overseas networks and finally found Ramon Weiss, the grandson of Mr. Weiss, who is now living in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. Chengdu Plus arranged a special meeting for them even though they were across the ocean, so that the German photographer Schumann could personally deliver his elaborate collection of these 100-year-old images.
Wirklich? Ihr habt Nachkommen gefunden von der Familie Weiß? Wie geht es Ihnen? Wer ist es? Wo leben Sie? Wie alt sind Sie? Was machen Sie? Ich bin aufgeregt.
At the same time, Chengdu Plus sent urgent calls to action to its global circle of friends and commissioned a well-known local documentary film crew from Stockholm, Sweden, to go to the site as a special messenger to record the story of young Weiss and capture the moment.
Now we're here in beautiful Stockholm, and we're invited by Chengdu Plus channel, and our mission is to get a hold of Mr. Weiss' grandson, Mr. Weiss. So yeah, let's find out where Mr. Weiss lives. I think this is the street where Weiss lives.
The meeting between the young Mr. Weiss and Mr. Schumann is about to start. 7,000 kilometers from Chengdu in Stockholm, Sweden, Chengdu Plus special messenger came to the home of the young Mr. Weiss.
Hello, is this Mr. Weiss?
Hello, yeah, that's me speaking, yes.
Yeah. We're from Chengdu Channel Plus, and we're here to talk to you about your grandfather and your grandparents.
Is that so?
Mr. Weiss.
That is a surprise.
Yeah. And we have some pictures that we want to show you from Chengdu.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So, please come in. Thank you. Please.
Although he is called the young Weiss, Mr. Ramon Weiss is 69 years old this year. Before he retired, he was the vice president of the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden and a professor of theoretical nuclear physics.
The same bridge that my grandfather took a photo of in his photos from the Chengdu. And this appears to be the same bridge, even though nowadays it has a construction upon the bridge, but the lower part is exactly the same.
Wow.
Hello,
Hello, hello.
can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Oh, it's so good to meeting you. Leben Sie in Stockholm?
Ja, ich lebe in
Ja,
Stockholm.
das ist toll. Was arbeiten Sie in Stockholm?
Ich bin im Augenblick ein pensionierter Professor, das heißt ein Professor Emeritus. Ich habe auch Auftrag von chinesischen Universitäten. Ich bin Gastprofessor bei 2 Unis in Sichuan, bei der University of Sichuan unter anderem, aber auch
ja
bei
toll.
der University Shanghai Taotong. Ich habe also gewisse internationale Kontakte, aber auch Forscherkontakte mit Kollegen in China, mit denen ich
Ja.
in sehr guten Kontakt stehe dauernd. Ja.
The Royal Institute of Technology, with a history of nearly 200 years, is one of the largest engineering schools in Sweden and the largest polytechnic school in Northern Europe. Like his grandfather, Mr. Weiss has a lot of connections with China, and from 2003, Ramon Weiss visited China several times on behalf of the Institute, taking the opportunity of university cooperation and exchange. What is even more amazing is that, similar to his grandfather's experience, Mr. Weiss Jr. has also visited Chengdu and became a visiting professor at Sichuan University in 2018.
Also es würde mich ja sehr interessieren, ob Ihre Großeltern Geschichten zu erzählen haben von der damaligen Reise.
Ja, ja, natürlich. Also das hat ja vor allem meine Großmutter. Mein Großvater habe ich ja nicht so viel erlebt. Ich war da 5 Jahre, als er starb. Aber mit meiner Großmutter hatten wir sehr großen Kontakt. Und sie natürlich erzählte viel von China. Sie hatte auch zu Hause viele kleine Gegenstände, die aus China stammten. Das waren kleine Buddha-Figuren, das waren kleine chinesische Schuhe, wie man sie damals noch trug, und eben viele andere Sachen, was natürlich unsere Neugierde sehr erweckt damals von meiner Schwester und mir. Und sie schrieb ja auch Kinderbücher, meine Großmutter, oder Bücher für Jugendliche, die das chinesische Leben der damaligen Zeit zum Thema hatte.
Es wäre toll, wenn Sie nach Chengdu kommen würden oder bald nach Chengdu kommen würden. Also wir hier würden uns sehr freuen, Sie in Chengdu begrüßen zu können.
Ja, ja, wir können ja schon mal erstmal Kontakt auf WeChat machen.
Na klar.
Doch, gerne Sie kennenlernen.
Ja, das ist ja toll. Freut mich sehr. Freut mich auch sehr, dass wir miteinander sprechen und ja, sehr sympathisch, ja. Sehr nett, sehr offen. So, ja. Dann bye bye. Auf Wiedersehen. Bis bald mal.
Auf ein richtiges Wiedersehen in Chengdu beim nächsten Mal.
Ja, das wäre toll.
For Schumann and Ramon Weiss, the story of the Weisses in Chengdu 100 years ago was like a small seed buried in their hearts that had taken root and sprouted. 100 years later, the seed had grown into a huge tree, and with the same images and the same people, that same Sino-German friendship that had sprouted in the last century will carry on in the city of Chengdu.
So it's now more than 100 years ago, my grandfather, he came there with his new married wife to Chengdu. And he of course planted a seed of love to China also in my heart through his photos and his stories and my grandmother's books. And upon returning to Chengdu, it's a very nice place to be there and see the tremendous changes the city has undergone, but also see some of the historic remains that you still can visit. Having also been invited, being a guest professor at Sichuan University, I hope of course to be able to soon come there back again. And I think it was inspiring that the work of my grandparents led to better understanding between the cultures, and this is still very important nowadays, that we keep an open mind and keep open relation between our countries, between Europe and China, well and alive.